Denmark and Greenland are standing united after saying no to the Trump administration's plans for Greenland.
We therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk.
So that was Denmark's foreign minister following a meeting at the White House. Now, neither U.S. President Trump nor Greenland and Denmark are shifting each of their views on the island's ownership. But NATO allies like Germany and Sweden, they're ramping up security with more military personnel. So what could this mean for Canada's north? For a closer look this morning, we're joined by Alex Diel, Senior Fellow for Arctic Security at the Montreal Institute for Global Security, the perfect guest for this discussion. Good morning.
Morning, Anne-Marie.
I'm so interested in your perspective and how you see this. Denmark's foreign minister said they fundamentally disagree, but they will establish what they described as a high-level working group. What does that even mean, and how does that contrast with what the White House is saying?
Well, Marie, I think we're seeing here, an unfolding tragedy still potentially, which is a completely unforced error by the U.S. administration. So, it's becoming very, very clear that this project is being led out of the White House, and the sort of all or nothing language that still continues to come from the president really doesn't leave a lot of room for negotiation. But to speak to some of the beneficial things that came out, I don't think we should overlook that. It was face-to-face time between Danish and Greenlandic leadership with the U.S. And as well, these working groups that they're talking about, I think give a possibility to maybe lower the tension a bit, drag out the time, actually come to a clearer understanding, in terms of defense and security, what it is that the United States is actually looking for. But, after a year, it's not clear really to me anymore that this is primarily about defense and security. And I'll tell you why. It's because, since 1951, the United States and Denmark have had an agreement on the positioning of U.S. forces in Greenland that gives the U.S. extensive rights to base and station troops across Greenland. In 2004, that was updated with a Greenlandic signature as well, showing their buy-in to this agreement as well. So in that sense, there's not really a lot to negotiate for. The U.S. could very clearly state what it wants in Greenland, and that would lead to discussions. So moving this into a working group, if that's the aim, to perhaps lower the temperature a bit, hand it over to officials and experts who can deal with that, that should be seen as a positive. But I should also add here that, the critical minerals and strategic minerals piece has come up quite a bit too. Sure. And there's also nothing that the United States can't do there if it wants to compete fairly with Canadian, European, Australian, other mining companies. Obeying Greenlandic law, reflecting the wishes of the Greenlandic people. So it's very hard to see, in fact, what the administration might be trying to soften the Greenlanders and Danes up for.
I want to interrupt you because the president does not seem to be backing down. He's not looking for concessions. Just before the meeting yesterday, this is what he came out with on Truth Social, restating his position. NATO, tell Denmark to get them out of here now. 2 dog sleds won't do it. Only the USA can. So he's been very clear, and it's almost like he's using the desires of NATO against themselves. They are mostly concerned with a potential war with Russia. Greenland has become an issue. Do we see a scenario where there are concessions made for the U.S. in order to keep NATO intact and ultimately the ultimate goal of NATO, which is to defend itself against people not signatories to NATO?
Well, again, I think we need to understand what it is the U.S. in fact thinks those concessions would be. Right now, the only concession is hand over Greenland to the United States, which, is not a concession. That's an all or nothing proposition. So these 2 dog sled statements, et cetera, are not accurate. Last year, Denmark invested 5.9 billion Canadian additional in its defense. That includes high-end military hardware purchases from the United States, including 16 additional F-35s. There's discussions of buying maritime patrol aircraft from the United States. So, Denmark itself is doing quite a bit to try to change the script, and that script has not changed, as you mentioned, from Washington.
I want to get your thoughts on this before we let you go, Alex. U.S. Ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, was on CJAD 800 radio. He was talking about the Canadian and U.S. relationship in the north because, of course, we are in between Alaska and Greenland. First of all, I'll play you what Mr. Hoekstra had to say, and then I want to get your comments out of it.
we want to very, very closely coordinate and cooperate with the United States on Canada's north. Matter of fact, Canada, Finland, and the United States have reached agreement on, I think, a very interesting pact on building icebreakers. Okay.
So can you expand on what Canada has been doing in the Arctic, and is it enough in what Mark Carney calls this new world order?
Right. Well, I still think it's not enough what we've done yet, because we still need to see more concrete things put on the table. But we are on the right track with the commitment to spend 5% of defense, with talk about Arctic infrastructure funds and dual multi-use infrastructure in the north. We are making some of the right moves. NORAD modernization is key to that. Canada's made that a priority for years, and we have bought one of the radars we're looking at there. So Canada very much wants that sort of cooperation with the United States too. So to me, the key complicating factor here is this discussion about this rhetoric about Greenland, which makes that sort of cooperation harder. There's a lot. NORAD, NATO give us excellent frameworks to work with the United States. It's in Canada's interest to do so. It's in the United States' interest to do so. But this, as I said, rhetoric about Greenland and occupation and annexation is a memory of the 19th century, and we very much should be looking at the modern security threats together that the North American continent faces.
There's the should, and then the what's actually happening now. Alex DL, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.